Um, I'd like to define a couple words here for you to start off the story. The first one is a wrench. Now, a wrench is a noun, and the noun is the definition is a hobby that it takes far too much time of your day and of your life. And used in a sentence, a wrench would be, I'm looking at getting into ice climbing. That's going to be my next wrench. Okay? Now, the verb of a wrench, to wrench, is a wrench that you get so far into that you have absolutely no time in the rest of your life for anything. Used in a sentence would be, honey, I'm sorry I haven't had enough time for you. I've been too busy wrenching. Okay? So this lays the groundwork for a friendship of mine. For the sake of the story, we'll call him Ben. Now Ben, me and him went straight into wrenching when we became friends. The etymology of this term dates back to 2012 November, where we decided, sort of separately, that we're going to build motorcycles. We took our motorcycles to my shop, and we got into it. Neither of us have ever built motorcycles before. Seems ridiculous, I know. This is like tearing them down to the frame, building them up. Seems ridiculous. I don't actually want to ride a motorcycle. I just think that it's going to be cool, which later on turns out is not that cool, but you think you're cool. So we get into this wrench, and this requires about 6 days a week, about 10 to 12 hours a day, where we're just in a shop. We talk sometimes. We probably play the same album over and over again, and we're focused on a hobby that we thought was going to take a couple weeks. 3 months later, we're still working on them 6 days a week. Now, the wrench, to show you how far the wrench goes, this 3 months later, you're so focused on this very small minor thing that you're trying to fix one tiny little thing, you go crazy. So you can actually have a wrench within a wrench, where while we're building motorcycles, trying to look cool, now we think that it's going to be really cool to buy 49cc mopeds, like little European, almost Vespas, and it's going to be awesome. Next day we're out buying the mopeds. Next day we're back at the shop working on our motorcycles again, but now we have mopeds also. It's awesome. Okay, so this is sort of how our friendship built, and it continues like that. Now this is during the summer that I'm talking about here, summer 2012. I run a seasonal business, so I get to spend all my time, or winter, sorry. I get to spend all my time in the winter working on a wrench now, and once the summer comes again to start up work, you kind of move on to a light wrench. Our light wrench during the summer was we got into shooting clay targets with shotguns, like skeet or trap. That was a light wrench. It was fun. We got some guns. That was fun, and got to shoot stuff. Awesome. Do that every couple weeks. And so then the fall started coming on, and so we're not sure what our next wrench is. Sort of dries out there. So let me set the stage for you here. You're sitting on your couch. Okay, you got your leather couch. You got your big steel bowl that you have full to the brim, and then a little more. Got all that popcorn in there. Got the butter on there. Got the salt. You're sitting there and you're watching a cowboy movie. Now you're watching True Grit specifically. It's John Wayne, and you're loving it, and you're eating your popcorn. About half done your popcorn, half done the movie, and John Wayne's on his horse, and Ned Piper is across the field with his three sort of henchmen, and John Wayne has, in one hand, he has a revolver, and in the other hand, he has a lever-action rifle. Now, lever-action rifle, you reload it by going like this, you know, right? So this is in one hand, and in the other hand, you got your revolver, and he just guns it at these guys, and he's reloading this gun with one hand, and he's got his revolver with the other, and he's taking these guys out, no problem, like 4 guys on one, no problem. Obviously, I need a lever action gun at this point. Okay, we're gonna push this to 7 days later. Me and Ben are sitting in my car. Actually, no, we're sitting in his truck, driving up to Barrie to buy a 40-year-old Winchester lever action gun that I just think is the coolest. And it has to happen. 1 week later, heading up there, and turn back around, grab a gun for him on the way too. So now he's driving the truck with his gun right behind him. I'm sitting in the passenger seat with my favorite new toy with the stupidest grin on my face. And we're sitting there trying to figure out what the wrench is. This is the start of wrench season, and we don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to involve these guns, obviously. So this is our intro into hunting. Now, we sort of got into a guy named Steve Ranella. He's written a couple books, and he has a couple television shows, and he has particular ethics in his hunting. And I'd like to read a passage from his book real quick for you to give you an idea of where he comes from. And he says earlier, the book before, I wrote about things that I've suffered while in pursuit of a lifestyle that makes sense to me. Things such as cold, hunger, loneliness, and fear. What I failed to mention are the ways in which I've been blessed through the same pursuit. While hunting, I've cried at the beauty of mountains covered in snow. I've learned to own up to the past mistakes, to admit them freely, and then behave better the next time around. I've learned to see the earth as a thing that breathes and writhes and brings forth life. I see revelations as a form of grace and art, as beauty, as the things we humans attempt to capture through music and dance and poetry. So he's talking a lot about the adventure of the hunt, and he also talks a lot about ethics of hunting and meat acquisition, and that we've been doing this for hundreds of years in the human race, or thousands of years. And so Ben was really into Stephen Ranella at the time, and this is going to push us into a hunting scenario. But we're a couple city guys. We got these stupid little guns in our laps. We're driving back, trying to figure this out. We know that Steve Ranella has hunted mule deer in Montana. He's hunted elk in Kentucky. He's hunted black bear in Alaska. And what are we going to do? I don't even know if I can kill anything. He doesn't know if he can kill anything. We need to acquire meat, and we need to process that meat, and we need to live off that meat. And we don't know what we're going to hunt. And we figured it out, and we got to man up, and we got to go squirrel hunting. So now we're on a squirrel hunt. Let's push this 3 weeks. I'd say 3 weeks later, we're driving up to an arbitrary spot 8 hours north of the city that we kind of picked on a map. We brought one of these, I think, one of those, and we were on our way. And in those 3 weeks leading up to this, we also picked up a lot of information on bushcraft. We were really into the idea of living off the land as the hunting. We want to also be able to make tools and make benches and make shelters. So we're taking on all these things. This is why this is a wrench. I needed you to understand the wrench, because going on a camping trip is one thing. Putting yourself, for 2 weeks, the decision was, arbitrarily also, 2 weeks we're going to live off squirrel. Awesome, right? We're going to have some white rice. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to be building shelters. And we brought our hammocks, because we thought hammocks were cool then. And actually, I just realized one more thing. Ben was also into photography at the time and videography, so we were going to film this whole escapade as if we were the guys that we were looking up to, you know? Which leads us to a point where we hop out of the truck with about 90-pound, 100-pound packs. And if any of you guys have ever been hiking before, 100-pound pack, you're not having a good time. 90-pound pack leaves you in a scenario where when you hop out of the truck and it's raining and you put on 90 pounds, you can kind of make it about 45 minutes to an hour, and then you got to take your packs off. You got to talk about how ridiculous your pack is, and then you got to put the pack back on, and then you hike another 20 minutes, do the same thing, another 10 minutes, and then you're done. And that's it. And then you're jacked. You're like, I can't see the truck. Good to go. There's nobody around. You're gonna get that tarp up. It's raining, so obviously we have to collect this rain in our barrels. That we made a sweet scenario with our backpack that we have barrels. And we're gonna collect the rain to live off of, and then we get the tarp set up, get your stuff under, and then you get the fire right in front. So we gotta start the fire, but obviously you can't start a fire with a lighter if you're doing all these bushcraft survival stuff. So you gotta light it with flint, right? But it's pouring rain, and then you get out the camera and you wanna get that shot of that first fire that you start with flint, and you start going at that. You get the camera out, you're going at it with the flint, and the fire's not gonna start. And then you get the lighter out and you barely get the fire started then. It kind of goes like that. You're gonna then the next day you're gonna hike out half of your gear and you're gonna come back to your spot and get the other half and take it out. You're gonna do that, and then you're gonna get to that spot and you're gonna be like, oh, we're so far, when you could hike out in maybe an hour and a half. And you're gonna set up a sweet spot there. And then the next day you're gonna start to make a bench because you're like, oh, this is awesome. I'm gonna make a bench now, and like, okay, start up some bushcraft stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna also go on a squirrel hunt, right? We're out here to squirrel hunt. Now, the problem in squirrel hunting it kind of arise pretty quickly. We're city guys, girls here. We see a lot of squirrels, right? Squirrels everywhere. They're running around, eating their nuts. They're big, fatty squirrels too, by the way, which is not the case in the woods. But they also don't like humans. They've never seen a human before, and I think it was 3 days in until we heard the first squirrel, and we were pretty rattled over that. But we're like, you go out squirrel hunting, you're like, this is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be a joke. We're gonna be dining on like 8-10 squirrels a night, which, by the way, is what you need for a full meal for an adult male. But you might get one night, one another night, get a little morsel, chew on these little bones. It's silly. But you get lots of white rice with it, which is awesome also. And then it starts to snow a little bit. We're out in November. November 1st was this trip. But what we were expecting in November, first week in November, you're expecting 0 degrees, coldest maybe -5. Not really planning on snow. It starts to snow, and it starts to snow a little bit more, and then we realize that the days are kind of short too. I normally wake up at 10. I don't know about you guys, but if you wake up at 10 when you're in the woods in the fall, you have about 4.5 hours of daylight to do things. And when it gets dark, you can't turn on your lights to do other hobbies. You sit by the fire and you dry off your stuff. And then once it's dry, then you're happy, and then you just have to try to sleep. And this is how it goes every day, You wake up a little bit earlier each day. But then it starts to snow more, and it starts to get colder. And we realize that we had this idea, this mission that we were going to be out there, and Ben would be, as I was saying, making a bench. He'd be out making a bench and be like, making that bench, and he'd be like, Nate, what are you up to today? I'm like, oh, I'm just going on another squirrel hunt, gonna bag a couple more. What are you up to? He's like, oh, I'm just building another bench, no big deal. Just built one, gonna build another one, gonna work on the shelter later, no problem. That's not the case. What you do in the woods when you got that much time out there is you're gonna be collecting wood, but you're gonna be getting wet collecting wood because there's snow everywhere. You're gonna be getting wet, you're gonna be collecting wood to put back in the fire to dry back off. And that's how it works. And that's what you do in the woods as a couple idiots trying to live off squirrel meat. So the weather gets worse, and we're looking at minus 18 degrees Celsius, which is about 15 degrees below what we thought it was possible. Having like a sweater with like one canvas jacket over it, and like a pair of pants, and your like sleeping bag, and your shelter that you made that's made out of like sticks and like little space mylar blankets to try to reflect the heat, and your fire inside the shelter smoking you out, but you gotta have that fire in that shelter, otherwise you're gonna actually die. And you also got that fire, and you have to keep that fire simmering down and moving it back and forth because you're cooking on that fire because we're too proud to use a stove. So you're cooking it's very difficult. And you're doing that, and it's not giving up much heat, and you're wet, but you're trying to dry off, and now it's minus 18. And now you're sitting on a shitty bench that you built in a shitty shelter with a shitty fire in front of you, trying to stay warm in minus 18 during the day, minus 18 weather, and you can't do anything about it. And you sit there in silence. And I'd like to just quickly talk about hard lessons here. Yeah, this is where this comes up. Yeah, hard lessons. This is a hard lesson. And hard lessons have come into play in almost all of our wrenches, and I believe they will continue to. A hard lesson is not a lesson that hurts necessarily. It's a lesson that arises from sort of wrenching it up to that next level. It's a lesson that draws out questions and challenges that would have never been addressed otherwise. And right here, right now, is the hardest hard lesson that we had ever had, and to this date have ever had, because we would find this out later, but each of us were sitting there in silence thinking the exact same thing. That we should get up, we should pack up our stuff, we should hike out because this is dangerous, and we're going to die out here. And that's what we were thinking independently, but we didn't say it. It's the most dangerous thing I've ever done. But that's what a hard lesson is. And that's what we were thinking at that point. So we had to move because we would have frozen there. So we got up and we hiked out to where we thought would be a cool place with some sun. We found some sun on a lake. We sat down and we got out our stove, which we hadn't used yet, which we were letting ourselves, this is the worst day of our lives. You get the stove out, set up the stove, get your Earl Grey tea packs, open them up, put them in your silver cup, wait for that water to boil, and you got the sun rays on you for like 20 minutes before the sun goes down. And this is bliss. This is probably the best time of my life, was 20 minutes near the end of this day. And that's where the story is pretty much done. We had accomplished what we were doing. The next day, we headed back to our truck, feeling accomplished. I think we ate 10 squirrels. As I recall, 10 or 11 squirrels. Now, when you're out for this long in the bush eating a couple squirrels, white rice, especially when you're opening up that last pack of pasta that you have, like the sidekicks, like the carbonara one especially. You get one each. When you're opening up that last one and you know that you've been eating white rice for 2 days before that so that you could use that on that last day, you start to get cravings for food. And we had a number of cravings during the end of this trip. And so we each had our ideas. Like I wanted A&W, I wanted to go into A&W, and I wanted to, you got the little ketchup packets, and you get like 6 of them, and you open them up, and then you squeeze them out, and you try to keep the little tab from falling off, so you squeeze them all out, and then you get the onion rings, but they only give you like 4 onion rings, so you're obviously going to get onion rings and the fries, and you're gonna do all that, and then you're gonna sit there. But then Ben also wanted like 50 Timbits. So you need to get the 50 Timbits. So you're gonna go in. You're gonna go into Tim Hortons. You're gonna order 50 Timbits. You're gonna get the 50 Timbits. You're gonna open it up. You're gonna throw all the Dutchies out. And then you're gonna, obviously you want pizza. You're gonna go next door. You're gonna order a pepperoni pizza. And then while that pizza's being made, you probably need some Dairy Queen ice cream. It's across the street. You can see it from there. So once you get the A&W in your stomach, you get the Timbits, you get your coffee, you got your ice cream, you got the pizza for the trip back, which you're gonna eat right away anyways. Once you got all that, you're good to go. Now you're in a spot where you can't move, you can't think, and you can't talk for about 2 hours in the car. And at this moment, about 2 hours, we're sitting there, not talking, but unsaid, all we were thinking about was the next wrench.